You won. Just 2 words that meant my irreversible surrender. 2 insignificant words that only took me a second to say. And yet, after days, weeks, and months of annoying requests and prayers from my husband Jeff, they were finally spoken to. I looked at my wedding ring and sighed angrily. Do vows really not mean anything anymore? Does this mean that you agree? He asked, hopefully. Yes. I hope you won't change your mind? I sighed at his stupid question and stared at him in disbelief. What part of yes did he not understand? He had been begging me to go along with his dangerous idea for months, and now that I had finally given in out of utter disappointment, he doubted my submission to his foolish plan. A volcano was raging inside, and I couldn't believe that I was agreeing to do something so sinful, how to become a participant in an open relationship, and even attend a party created specifically for such couples. I rolled my tear-filled eyes toward the ceiling and quickly remembered how Jeff first came to me with his outlandish proposal. This was almost a year ago. He started by saying that our marriage needed some seasoning. At first, I thought he was talking about going on an exotic vacation or maybe buying me a bunch of sexy lingerie. I even got to the point where I thought he was going to say we should watch some provocative videos. Then I assumed that he was suggesting that we start experimenting with some new positions. At first, he seemed hesitant to tell me what kind of seasoning he was talking about, so I got more information from him. And how do you propose to revive our marriage? Imagine my surprise when he offered me this open relationship. I have always believed that marriage is a sacred matter and an institution that should not be taken lightly. I couldn't imagine a marriage in which either of us would be free to cheat. I firmly believe that marriage should be one where each partner was strictly monogamous. Wow, this is very surprising, Donna, he blurts out, shaking his fist in the air. I begin to tremble with fear and disgust. I can't believe I agreed to his stupid idea, but after more than 6 months of his non-stop requests, I finally gave in. And just thinking about it just makes me sick. I feel nauseous, but instead I breathe deeper and faster. His obvious joy at being in the arms of another woman makes me feel violated. At this thought, he feels deliciously happy. So happy that his face literally glows. Fresh flesh. Why is it so important for him to have fresh flesh? And why does he seem more excited now than on our honeymoon? Why do you look even more excited now than you did on our honeymoon? I ask him, waving my hands for greater effect. Don't be stupid, he spits. I'm just overjoyed that something like this could save our marriage. I don't see how, I whisper, giving up. Something like that could easily turn into trouble. So many things can go wrong. What could go wrong? I mean, this way, none of us will ever have to cheat. We just pick a couple a few times a year, and while I'm having sex with the guy's wife, you're having sex with her husband. My best friend Larry throws parties at his mansion every weekend. We could attend them, and it's all pure fun without any emotional attachment. This is just to keep our sex life fresh and exciting. We will end up loving each other even more, not to mention enjoying each other's bodies even more. That's what you say. But I am saying that it can and probably will end in disaster. I don't understand how, he said stupidly. I've thought it all out and nothing can go wrong. It'll just be a lot of fun. What could go wrong? For example, sexually transmitted diseases, pregnancy. He chuckled at my words and then smiled stupidly. We will use condoms conscientiously. So it's not a problem. Until one gets damaged and leaks. Didn't understand? I mean, a guy or girl might put a hole in a condom just because they get the extra thrill of taking the risk. Or maybe a woman can't get pregnant from her husband, so she tries to get pregnant from someone else's husband. This is quite far-fetched. Not really, I insisted. And there's also a possible emotional attachment to worry about. Emotional attachment? Yes, for example, unexpectedly falling in love. The heart is a complicated thing, and there is a chance that someone might fall in love and become obsessed. He seemed confused and began to look upset. My friend Larry would never allow anything like this to happen. Besides, you're just nitpicking the plan and imagining all these negative scenarios because you want to stop it before it starts. His words stung me like flying daggers. I suddenly felt empty and depressed. He was determined to have sex with other girls, and that was it. That way he knew he wouldn't have to go around behind my back. He can just do it in front of me. I'm not trying to give up on your crazy plan, I assured him. But I'm just pointing out the traps. Everything will be fine, you'll see. Suddenly, a tear rolled down my cheek, and I felt myself shaking with rage. Doesn't he understand how unfair all this is to me? He always hinted that he might divorce me or secretly cheat on me if I didn't agree to let us be open. I tried not to feel terribly manipulated and used, but that's exactly what I got by marrying a multimillionaire. All his life he felt spoiled and not deprived. Normal, everyday rules seemed to have no effect on him. Why couldn't I choose who to fall in love with? I folded my palms and covered my face with my hands and suddenly cried like a child. He forced me to accept his stupid fantasy and make it mine. But deep down, I didn't want to be a part of it, and he knew it. But he was incredibly selfish and frivolous. He obviously didn't care how much the thought upset me. He just wanted me to agree. He knew that I was head over heels in love with him, and that in a few years, I would like to have children with him. I couldn't imagine ever divorcing him. I'm stuck. He came up and put his arm around my shoulders, whispering that everything would be fine and that everything would be for the best. He did his best to comfort me, but I was inconsolable all night. We went to bed soon after, and he had no problem falling asleep without me. I did not sleep and was nervous, looking at the ceiling in the dark. A long piece of silky web clung to the corner of the ceiling, and the spider began to lunge at the trapped and helpless fly. She couldn't escape, and couldn't escape the fact that every drop of life was slowly draining out of her. I felt the same way. When I woke up, I noticed that Jeff was up early and was even singing in the shower. I cringed at the sound of his enthusiastic voice. He had never sung in the shower before, and he had never gotten up early for work before. This made me realize that he was over the moon with my capitulation to his demand. I lay on the bed and felt my stomach shrink. I wondered if he actually already had such an open pair, and if so, what do they look like and who are they? The more I thought about it, the more disgusted I became. Jeff and I had only been married for 3 years, and yet for the past 6 months, he had been constantly telling me that our marriage needed some seasoning if we were to save it. I had to ask myself if the humiliation of my body after I'll have sex with some unknown man will save my marriage. Part of me was sure that this would only worsen the relationship between Jeff and me, and I couldn't resist trying to do anything that could save our marital relationship. I knew deep down that I would either have to comply with the damn request or risk losing Jeff forever in divorce. I pouted at the thought as Jeff continued to sing a happy storm. Was I even sure that such a fragile marriage was worth saving? And why do I love this bastard so much? Especially after all the agony I had to go through because of his disgusting proposal. I rolled over and pretended I was still asleep. There's no point in showing Jeff how I cry again. He'll be at work soon, and then I'll be able to treat myself to Belgian sweets while I openly sob and figure out what to do. It only took Jeff 10 minutes to get dressed and almost float out onto the porch. He was so excited about the idea of upcoming freedoms that he managed to wear 2 different colored socks. I waited until I heard his BMW pour in the driveway and finally jumped out of bed. Instead of candy, I started looking for a bottle of wine. In the situation I find myself in, alcohol would be a better medicine for me than comfort food. Plus, I knew it wouldn't take too long for my overheated and anxious husband to put his plan into action. By the end of that week, much to my disappointment, he was able to quickly figure out all the details. There will be no more delays, let alone postponements. Tonight, we will attend our first official open couple in the mansion of his friend, millionaire Larry. I realized that it was his best friend Larry who had been encouraging him all this time and convincing him to get on the swinging bandwagon. We have to be there by 8, so try to get dressed quickly, Jeff said shyly. I sighed, but I couldn't cry anymore. I had been secretly crying all day, but now that the time had finally come, I saw no point in protesting or delaying it any longer. I stood in front of one of her closets. It took me a minute or so to find the right dress. I caught Jeff's greedy gaze, but today his attention was focused on something else. He was going to have sex with someone else, and I had to let him do it. I chose my brand new tight red velvet dress. It was low-cut and sleeveless, not to mention it was terribly short. It was very provocative and hugged my ass very tightly. Before I had time to put on my naughty 5-inch red pumps, he suddenly turned pale and dumbfounded. He didn't expect me to dress to kill. I usually dress quite conservatively, just for tonight since he's going to force me to have sex with another guy. Let all eyes be on me, so that this guy is really hot, the one I choose. I imagined a super young stud with flowing sexy hair. He remained silent for about a minute as he gaped, but his mouth was wide open in shock and disbelief. "Don't worry, I don't have a bra or panties on," teased I. "You know, you shouldn't overdo it," he muttered uncertainty. "Look here," I spat defiantly. "We agreed that I will let you have sex with any girl you want, and I'll let you do just that. So don't think the same doesn't apply to me. You must have sex with the husband of the woman I choose. Here's how it works. And you must have sex with the wife of the man I choose. That's how I say it works. So let's just drop all this nonsense and double standards. You do it with whoever you want, and I will do it with whoever I want." "Wonderful," he squeezed out with difficulty, and a pang of jealousy showed on his face. He didn't expect me to choose my own boyfriend, let alone drag my property so dangerously into a room full of puffing, horny men. I was surprised at how quiet he was on the way. I saw the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end as he watched me raise my deadly eyelashes. He was furious and frustrated as he watched me spend 5 minutes in the visor mirror, applying generous amounts of sticky, glossy, glamorous red lipstick. I then extended my super long and super sexy red nails that I had been working on earlier in the day. "You're just trying to make me jealous," he blurted out venomously, adding a causeless growl. "Well, so what? First of all, it was your stupid idea. What did you think? That I'm going to go to this friend of yours' party and just sit in the corner while you have fun with someone?" The sudden, angry blare of the horn brought his nervous gaze back to the winding road. "If you change your mind about me throwing myself at all the men at this party, we can always call it off. We can just turn around and go home. You would like that, wouldn't you?" he asked bitterly. "Honestly? Yeah, that would be nice. I didn't want to go to this stupid party at all." He suddenly began to choke, and I could tell that, as jealous and anxious as he was certainly planning on choosing a specific woman. I just didn't know who he was going to choose, but I realized that very soon I would find out who the girl of his dreams was. Obviously, he agreed on everything in advance. At this thought, I pursed my lips. Apparently, he had been dreaming about this girl for months, and today was supposed to be that night. But if he was going to feel the storm, then I was going to feel the storm. I was determined to do everything to make him very upset and very jealous, even if it meant that I would have several partners, if possible, very beautiful and young. I knew that he had probably arranged in advance for me to be with some old man, simple and pot-bellied. But I will choose my own lover. He parked the car in a dead end and opened the door for me. He at least liked to pretend to his rich friends that he treated me with respect. We walked slowly towards the large double oak doors, so slow, in fact, that it felt like he was dragging me. When we finally arrived, the butler let us in with a plastic smile. The place was gorgeous and tastefully furnished, but it didn't leave much of an impression on me. If I've seen a $10 million mansion, I've seen them all. The maid slung Jeff's coat over her shoulder and led us through the front door into a magnificent living room replete with breathtaking chandeliers. I let my husband push me towards his best friend Larry, my heels clicking seductively on the marble floor. Now that we were here, part of me just wanted to sit in the corner, act like some shriveled plant, and then just wither away, unnoticed. But the clicking sound of my super high, super sexy shoes was turning me on. I found it strange, but at the same time, very exciting. After a few more seconds, I clearly saw that all the men's gazes were directed at me. Most of the guys stuck out their tongues, flicking them across the sparkling marble floor. At the same time, most of the ladies gave my husband Jeff a curious look. After all, the way this thing worked was that two couples would get together and swap partners for the evening. So while all the husbands were crazy about me, their wives ended up with Jeff. But did they want to stay with Jeff? Larry shook his best friend's hand and ceremoniously took my hand, leaning in to kiss it. I knew my outfit and sexy curves were creating quite a stir, and the ladies, including Larry's wife, didn't seem too keen on making friends with me. They just stood aside, looking at me with jealousy. I got the feeling that Jeff was nervous about the attention I was getting. "Relax, Jeff," Larry said jokingly. "We're not going to have sex with her or anything like that." The chandeliers were bright and sparkling, like a billion diamonds sparkling with unlimited brilliance. A few drops of sweat appeared on my forehead, and I immediately wanted to go and wipe them away. I hated sweating. "I think I'll use the ladies' room." Larry smiled mischievously. "Over there. But don't stay too long. All the guys will want to meet you." I put on my own plastic smile and then headed to the bathroom, feeling super horny but uncomfortable. I married Jeff as a virgin and have never known another man sexually. Only now the whole situation really started to turn me on. Only I didn't like these new feelings of mine, at least for now. The door to the bathroom was locked, and someone helpfully whispered that there were at least 4 bathrooms upstairs. The woman who gave me this information was wearing what looked like a maid's uniform. I followed her up the spiral staircase, and at the top she pointed to double doors with what looked like gold-plated handles. I thanked her and opened the doors with both hands. In the bathroom, I lost my breath. She was beautiful and majestic. I quickly slammed the doors, then locked them behind me, but suddenly I heard water running in the far corner. Was the shower turned on? I gasped. Someone was in the shower. I must have gasped loudly because the water was quickly turned off and the glass shower door swung open. A blond man came out and stared at me with curiosity. He was naked and all wet. I turned beet red and put my hand to my heart, amazed and impressed. He was handsome and tall, about 6 feet 2 inches. His shoulders were very broad and sexy, and his chest was wiry and muscular. He had rippling abs and truly amazing V-shaped muscles. "I'm very sorry," I blurted out. "I didn't know there was someone here. The maid showed me this bathroom." He smiled nervously at me. "It wasn't the maid. It was my wife, Carol. She loves to wear a maid outfit." "So she knew you were here?" "Oh, yeah. She said she would bring me a partner from downstairs. She desperately wanted to spend the night with Larry's brother, but since he's single, she had to find me a woman, which means it'll be harder for your husband to find a girl. I hope it's not a problem." I started to smile. No guy is going to want to let his wife spend time with Jeff if Jeff's wife is missing. "You're nervous and shaking all over," he said, grabbing a towel and drying himself. I bit my lower lip warily and then shrugged lamely, but sweetly. "This is my first time here. My husband desperately wanted me to agree. But to be honest, I didn't want this." He frowned mockingly and playfully. "So you don't find me attractive?" he said quietly, letting his gorgeous blue eyes sparkle like diamonds. "You are more than attractive," I admitted. "More like the Greek god and the sexiest porn star in the world rolled into one." "So, what is next?" "I do not know what to do. As I said, this is my husband's stupid idea, even though you are 10 times sexier and more beautiful than him." "My name is Mike." "I'm Donna." "You really are a hot beauty," he whispered in awe, devouring me with his amazing eyes. I found that my face was flushed. As much as I hated the whole idea, there was no denying that this guy was super hot and super desirable. He moved towards me, letting the towel fall to the ground. Part of me wanted to back away so I wouldn't have to do this to Mike or anyone else. Maybe run and hide under a bed or in a closet somewhere for the rest of the night. Another part of me wanted to leave Mike and find some pot-bellied, lame old man who would at least keep the sex mercifully short and unpleasant. "You're nervous and unsure, aren't you?" he said, his perfect, dazzling teeth completing his mesmerizing smile. I started to sweat and worry. He was too damn handsome and too sexy for me to run away from, and we both knew it. He was also undoubtedly a guy who knew exactly how to use all his charm. I froze when he stepped towards me. His muscular arms suddenly wrapped around me, and his long, silky blonde hair pressed teasingly against my smooth, trembling neck. His lips were cherry red and juicy, pressing like delicious fire against my defenseless mouth. His arms lift me into the air and sit me on the countertop, my back to the fancy tiled wall. He kissed me feverishly, knowing it would easily melt away any lingering resistance in my anxious mind. I pushed against the ledge, tearing off my red velvet dress until it fell to the floor, leaving me completely naked. But I kept my sexy 5-inch pumps on. Their color matched my lips and long, stunning nails. He kissed much more skillfully than I could have imagined, and within minutes my temperature was out of control. His hands were warm and skillful, rubbing my thighs, and his kisses continued to feel incredibly amazing, filling me with a bliss too delicious for words. Suddenly there was a knock on the door. The knocking was desperate and lewd. We stopped kissing for a moment when Jeff's voice came from behind the locked door. "Donna, are you there?" "There's no one here but me," Mike shouted to him. There was a pause, then we heard the sound of Jeff's frantic footsteps running away to search the rest of the top floor. Apparently, the husband of the wife he chose sent Jeff to look for me, but none of them will find me. Mike took advantage of the fact that I was wide-eyed and quickly continued kissing me. His skillful lips made my face, neck, and chest tremble with unbridled glee. We enjoyed the moment, pulling each other closer. I had never felt such amazing joy before, and I doubted he had either. The accumulation and mutual release was simply amazing. When all was said and done, Mike and I slid onto the floor and chatted pleasantly for the rest of the evening. Then we took a shower and freshened up. We made a pact that we would continue to meet at these weekly swingers parties, but we would keep our sex a secret. We also agreed to never use a condom. Skin to skin was beyond heaven. I also told Mike that whenever I got pregnant with his child, I would just pretend that one of Jeff's condoms broke, so that my husband would take the blame. My husband is very jealous and very selfish. He would go crazy if he knew that I plan to pay attention to a super handsome guy like you every week. Don't worry, we will lock ourselves in this bathroom every time. It will be our secret, Mike told me, winking playfully. I finished brushing my hair and kissed Mike generously on his amazing lips. Then I walked out the door. He let me leave the bathroom first. We didn't want to be seen leaving together. "I couldn't find you," Jeff blurted out as I walked down the stairs. He looked up the stairs but saw no one. "I chickened out," I lied. "I hope you forgive me. I hid in the bedroom and just fell asleep. I wanted to pick some old guy for you, but I guess I just couldn't." He frowned and blushed. "I hope you're not going to ruin everything for me. I spent this evening with a very cute redhead. Some women here are single, so if you don't have sex, it won't bother me. But at least you have to promise that you will come. They won't let a guy in without a partner. House rules. But they don't keep track of what's going on here. So promise me you'll come every week, even if you don't have sex with anyone." "I will continue," I assured him. "Thank you for letting me win," he said joyfully, his face beaming from ear to ear. "I'll let you win week after week," I lied. I knew that the main gain was already mine. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.